Welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. It is that time of year, one of my favorite times of year. It's the top 10. Yes, top 10 consumer complaints of 2024. That can mean only one thing. Department of Ag, Trade, Consumer Protection. Michelle is here. She's got the list. I've got the list. And I have to say, wow to some things, some changes in the list. And then some things like, ugh. Is that what the reaction's been? As you've been hitting the media circuit? Have they been like, hey, ugh?
I don't know that there's any, yeah.
Fine.
All right, that makes sense.
I don't know. It could be anything. All right, well, let's start. We're going to start from 10 and work our way to number 1. So at number 10, we have motor vehicle accessories. And I don't know this category. I'm trying to think back if I remember what's in this category. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it is. And it was a category that made the list last year for the first time, I think, ever. 141 complaints received in this category. And it's, think buying yourself windshield wipers to a new car radio to an engine or a transmission, and you're going to put it in yourself, or maybe you're going to get the part yourself and have someone you know or another mechanic help you with the install on that. Maybe you're a classic car person and involved in trying to get accessories for your vehicle. But this is that category. And really it's about refunds, failure to deliver, misrepresentations, primarily with purchases online, in what consumers need to be aware of in do it yourself, I guess.
Is it and I'm thinking back to our conversation last year, because I probably asked you this, coming out of COVID, car prices had gone up substantially, and then there was a real run on used vehicles, and those went up substantially. So do those correspond, do you think, that people are trying to keep those vehicles longer because the prices have been, sort of higher and everything else, or are we just getting that good at getting information out and reporting these things?
I think you are right. In last year, this making the list and now sustaining itself on the list is a result of some of that backlog. So it wasn't just about COVID and do it yourself. It's the backlog of other cars in the wait list, and maybe they don't have enough workers. And so we're still just coming out of that piece of it. So people are like, yeah, I can change my own oil, and so now I need some parts to do that. And if they purchased them online, and others, it's always been, I need to sustain my vehicle longer. And if I take it there to get it fixed, that's going to be really expensive, versus if I get the part myself and just have them do the labor, that might work better for my pocketbook.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think there's got to be something there to it that ties it all together, that it gets into the top 10 categories. So we'll see if it holds another year, but very interesting. Travel, again, another, you could say more people are traveling than they were, several years ago, but at 244 travel complaints. Wow.
Yes. And so with this category, what we've seen is, I want to make sure everyone understands how we're looking at travel. So it could be an airline complaint. It could be the hotel, motel, lodging situation. It might be the rental vehicle that you've made, or that travel package, promotion, flyer, company that you're working with. So any of that part of travel. And of course, we're going to have billing disputes. And then there's going to be cancellation issues, and whether or not there was a right to cancel and honor that. So that failure to return a deposit will creep in there. And then just those refund and adjustment policies in general, and representations as to what is and isn't included in the price that you're booking things at.
Yikes. Travel's complicated because there are so many things, I feel like you can buy insurance for everything now, but I think if you read the fine print there, it doesn't always mean that that's going to add up. Like, that's probably, I assume, in many different disputes, kind of becomes kind of interesting.
Well, it's very complicated. I mean, let's just take buying an airline ticket. You're going to have different classes of purchase, and some of those are going to let you book a seat. Some of those are going to let you get a refund. Some of those will have no change fees. And what's included in that is baggage, isn't baggage. Yeah. And so just that category alone, and then look at a motel, and you want to compare that one to another hotel, and this one has breakfast, this one has parking, maybe this one has a resort fee that is automatically included, and this one you can add on a resort fee. So what are you getting? And if you don't do all that work up front and understand those cancellation policies, it can be a factor. And even with the hotel industry, how it's changed, and you used to just make a reservation, you knew how long you had to cancel. Well, if you don't pay attention, the cheapest rate might be a pre-book, now cancellation, and so you forfeit it, but you gotta read those details and know what you're comparing as well, that it is a bunch of apples and not apples and bananas.
It's kind of funny you say that, because when I look at travel, whether it's airline or it's hotel, it seems like there are like 20 different packages, and you're always like trying to find the best thing, but the best thing doesn't always mean the cheapest, or it doesn't always mean the, XYZ. So it's just, you are right about, there's so many variables there in so many different ways. So, we could probably say this 100 times. Do your homework before you, travel and do all those things, but we'll save that for another day. At number 8, motor vehicle sales. So new and used. So we kind of talked more on the accessory side. This is more on the vehicle itself, and maybe even getting you in the door and making that purchase.
Yeah, 297 complaints in this category. And you're right, sometimes it's about getting you in the door, and that's where we are involved. Those prize notice mailers is one of those enticements that shows up in your mailbox. And so a number of complaints about those. I thought I won this. I went to claim it. I was told I didn't win, or I didn't qualify for that prize. And we do have regulations that govern those prize notice mailers. And so that's where our enforcement comes in with this new and used vehicle aspect. And then we also partner with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, because they regulate dealers, and so some of the disclosures may be on their end that need to be looked at.
Yeah, and I guess when it comes to any car sales, do you guys have people that go out and are checking on these on a regular basis, or is it only by complaint when it comes to car dealerships?
That would be the Department of Transportation in their dealer regulation section, that they have the investigators that will go out and do those types of reviews or inspections.
All right. Motor vehicle repair is next. We kind of already commented on this before, but again, not surprising. It's an expensive asset that you want to keep working, but I'm sure, I'm just dealing with this recently, prices can vary, and it gets expensive.
Yeah, 341 complaints. So now you're seeing some significant increase in the numbers as we move up the list. And here we've seen different things about quality of work, whether or not the repair shop had authorization to proceed with the repair, and so charging for that repair would be an issue, honoring agreements, performance of work, delays in performance as well, and just damage and loss of property while the vehicle is in there can be an issue too.
Yeah, that one's got to be interesting, because it probably does hit the whole gamut of stuff, and it's not surprising. And this one at number 6, medical services. We've been dealing with medical everything, but this one isn't everything you think it is. It's getting a lot of, if I'm reading this right, it seems like a lot of different disputes in the medical world. So where does this one pick up at? 439 complaints.
Yeah, this is really about billing disputes, and we work with the Office of Commissioner of Insurance on these, because they handle the insurance side of things. And should insurance cover this or shouldn't it? That's going to be them and the policies and regulations there. But if insurance isn't going to cover it, and you need to pay that out-of-pocket piece of it, or maybe you just go in knowing insurance doesn't cover it and have a procedure done, that's where we come in. No surprises, no misrepresentations on the billing aspect of things, and Consumer Protection works with our partner, OCI, on that, but we also then mediate those kinds of complaints for individuals. And we do have some success. There was a consumer who was billed more than $1,900 for a procedure, and after being told it was covered by insurance, however, then it wasn't, and we were able, through our mediation efforts, to get that balance waived for the consumer, because regulations, representations, and full understanding for consumers there.
Before we crack the top 5 in any of these disputes, and when you get something in writing, or you have a quote, you have something, and you're like, man, this isn't, you said this, but now it's this. How can people protect themselves in general from that? If things are like, come back different, and you're like, man, I was worried about it, and I should have did X, Y, Z.
Well, first, get it in writing. Make sure that if you have a contract, that it outlines what is being included in that purchase, that agreement, and get that in writing. Keep your documentation. But then if there are changes along the way that you're agreeing to, how does it impact the price? Does it go up? Does it go down? Does it stay the same? But get that in writing as well, and keep your own documentation if you need to. Do your research up front and do your price comparisons up front as well. Shop around. If you don't really like this, check it out over here, but make sure over here is the same as that, or that you're willing to have that difference for that difference in price.
And even though that seems to be sort of, I would say, not basic, but that seems like no-brainer stuff, that could actually take you a long ways in protecting yourself.
It can. It really can. And, you know, I would say our world is different, but it's not, because if you're doing one thing in person and you can see everything and talk, but now you're going to compare to the online piece, finding those details online and making sure that they're outlined, and no assumptions. If it doesn't say it, don't assume it's included. And that can just, and this can come into play if you're looking at a photo. Oh, the photo has all of these things, but you're buying this. Now, is that a misrepresentation and something you might want to report? Sure. But is it also then going to be a hassle for you potentially and time consuming? Yes, because maybe you were waiting for that one part that was in the picture that's not what you bought.
I'm so glad you went there, because I think that the online thing, adding that into just what would have been maybe something that just didn't exist, 10 years ago. Now you can do so much research online, but even trusting that online component and verifying that that is legit, that takes some extra steps too, and that could be a whole nother full interview on just protecting yourself online.
Extra steps in attention.
Yes.
And that's something that we kind of lose our attention span. We get rushed, we get busy, we maybe take a shortcut, we trust a picture, not the words on the page, and so many things.
They said it was
factor in.
great. All the reviews said it
Right.
was great. Do you know that they're legit? Do you know that? Yeah. All right. Off my soapbox. All right. Cracking into the top 5, we start with telecommunications. Break this one down first. What is telecommunications category at 527 complaints? We want to know.
It's either one thing or many things related to your telephone, your internet service provider, your television, as it relates to either cable or satellite coverage there. So you can maybe be getting one, or maybe you've bundled them together. And that service package makes up this complaint category. And of course, billing disputes are going to be in this category, but as well as fulfillment of terms and conditions, if you will. So you're supposed to get XYZ channels and you only get ABC. So that is, are things being delivered upon the terms that you've entered into of your agreement? Cancellation denials. You want to get out of that contract. Now, do you have a service fee for leaving early termination fee, or is it cancel at any point in time? Those, how long does your package last for, and then what happens with those price adjustments after your subscription is over? So it's really, really important to keep your documentation from your original agreement, notifications that might come with your bill about changes in your agreement, all the way through the time that you have service with that company.
I feel like when you try to read those contracts, especially in that category with the telephone, phone, but I mean, you almost have to be a lawyer to read those things, to really understand, to really dig deep in that, to what you're signing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems tough.
There are a lot of things that they want, and they being the business wants or needs in there, but pay attention to the term that you're signing up for, the cost. Maybe they say you're renting something. How long are you renting it for? How much are you renting it? Maybe you're leasing it instead of renting, which, can be a difference. And what's that price over time compared to buying it outright yourself and having it hooked up? And is there a hookup fee? But pay attention to those kinds of terms, and then cancellation. You want to leave, find that clause as well.
Yeah, ask up front too, because I think that's a good one, because there's so many things like, oh, you're no contract, or you're a contract, but your contract, or it just seems like it's a moving table, so to speak, of stuff.